been like a little over $20, which I thought was incredibly a lot. Last year when we had to ship something there, it was like $70-something. I was like, you gotta be kidding me! What the heck? So that stung a lot of people, and that actually crushed some people. I squeaked by, but let's just say I didn't make any profit. I just cut even, and which is fine. I wasn't looking to pay off my car because my car is paid off because it's old as dirt. But I mean, it's like, holy crap! That was really the other pitfall is, and most people don't realize this, is artwork. As much as people love great artwork and books, artists don't want to do things for cheap. I should know. I was actually an artist before I did anything. My first degree was art, and there is such a thing as a starving artist, and it sucks. So they should get paid. So sometimes some books get sparing on their artwork because their budget is not this grand thing. They're doing enough just to get by and get it out and get some artwork in there. I've been fortunate. I've had some great people. James Shield, he's been with me for every project. Hats off to that guy. He and I really work great together because what happens is I'll give him just the barest little bit and say, just do that. He said, you don't need more details? I said, no, you're going to make those details up for me. And he loves that because I know as an artist, when you get put so many things, okay, I need this, I need his eyes to be looking this way, and this belt buckle has to be this here with this thing on there. As an artist, you're just like rolling your eyes like, oh crap, can I just create something? Not just photocopy what's in your brain. So if
I'm a photographer. I always love the. Oh, can you shoot it again?
oh yeah,
Can
they
you get a
try
different angle?
right. So I only give him the bare bones thing. I don't expect anything except for just those couple of things. He does those, runs with it, and I'm like, that's perfect. And he has a blast with it too. And also too, I don't buy exclusivity. So when he does it for me, I say, James, you have my just go out there and sell it and reuse it. I don't care if you're making more money off this. Go have fun with it, man. I don't care. I don't have an ego about it. So it's funny. I've seen actually artwork that he did for me originally that he's used in other things. Other people have actually put in some of their publications and some of their other print things. I was like, oh my gosh, that's that. That's cool.
So I was looking on the website when it
Uh-huh.
was coming to me the other day, and I was
Mhm.
like, I know I've seen some of this art from Spy before.
If you
So
got
that's
if you got the Art
probably
Knight, you've seen the Art Knight little clear plastic things that you use for miniatures
yeah.
instead. They use a lot of those in that.
And I think that's where I read
Yeah, he
because I
just
was like,
recolored them.
yeah, I was like, I know I've seen some of these
Oh
characters
yeah.
before.
And in Drive Through
So that's
RPG, he has this section where you can buy some of his artwork. So those are in there as
nice.
well too. So
Yeah,
um,
and that way you're not killing the bank trying to work with him because he's going to create something and he's able to reuse it and
right, he makes money,
it's
and I get a product.
yeah, and it's not going to hurt you.
No,
um
I mean I still
I've
pay him
run
for, of
into
course, for it, but
yeah,
but I don't care
and
about
I've run into
exclusivity.
people that like yeah, like no, it can only be for this, it's my world that I created. I was like, you're asking for a dude or a woman sitting in a computer. You're asking
Well,
out of
I
stock
I,
art.
I think I understand to some degree why people do that because early on when I was in getting started in creative fields, and especially creative fields where you're trying to make money off of it, and you feel like you're giving birth to some child, and if someone else uses it, you feel like someone's taking your child away from you. But after you've been doing it a while, you realize, at least for me, I don't get so attached to it because I feel like, well, I'm just going to want to create something new anyway, so it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter. It's like, and nothing is really is truly original. I mean, hell, D&D would be nowhere without J.R.R. Tolkien or Robert E. Howard. Okay, I mean, let's face it; those two were
yeah.
the grandfathers of that crap.
What was the first monster manual that had all the Cthulhu and Elric
Oh
stuff in
yeah,
it?
oh yeah, yeah.
They're like, oops,
I
what do
had
you mean
that.
that stuff's not in the?
I had that manual.
We've got one in the library. It's a
Yeah.
tough one to find. It was funny because it was just in a stack of books that was donated to us, and pick up one of those and like, well, let's see how many pages it was. Like, oh, hey, this has the right number of pages.
Yeah.
And go, oh, there's the Cthulhu, there's all the Elric stuff, there's,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
pretty cool.
and
But as far as other
they,
challenges, I mean, that's those are probably my two biggest challenges. That and well, getting things done on time because I've already promised myself the next Kickstarter we do before we launch it, I'm going to have the actual written text done. It just will be have minus all the artwork. So all we have to do is basically get the artwork done and lay it out, and boom, we're ready to go. So
yeah,
that way people aren't sitting waiting for it.
and that's the thing is, people will have like a good framework and then not realize how much um, work is still going into it after they get going, because you're like, okay, I've got these rules set out, they've got we just got to write, the fluff in between. And then all of a sudden you start tinkering with it. You're like, yeah, this rule doesn't work. I've got to change this rule. And so,
Well, my problem is when I'm kind of doing the fine tuning, I'm finding more I can add to it. I'm like, oh, I can add this to it. I can add this to it. And with Pirates of the Shattered World, my adding to the last thing, oh my god, it took me months to finish that section because I wanted it to be so right. But the funny thing is, it wound up being one of the best parts of the damn game, and it wasn't originally slated for it until I was near done with it. I said, huh, what if I did this? It's this thing where you can have like a membership to order or a guild, and by doing that, it gets certain things as far as like some of your background stuff, some of your additions to skills or talents and things like that. But it really kind of almost defines a little bit of who you are and what you do as well as give you some perks. So, and it's all there's like several different things specialized to each archetype. So, that added about 40 or 50 pages more to the book. Yeah, it's like, and but when I rolled it out and showed people, they're like, "Oh my god, this is super cool. We like this." Like, okay, great. At least the work wasn't for nothing. So yeah, as you're thinking you're done, more things evolve, and like matter of fact, even Wicked Packs, there were supposed to be 50 more pages in there. I cut it from there because it was going past our our budget. So that will be coming out in supplements what we're working on right now, actually. So
and that's the great thing about RPGs is doing supplements and add-ons and stuff.
yeah, I try not to do too many of them, mostly because I always feel like some companies, not all, but I feel like some companies are really trying to milk that cow dry. you know, um, so for me, I want the basic book to be that's all you really need to play with. Now, the supplement stuff can be some added pieces. Now, for Dark Times, I will say the basic book has everything you need. Now, we did Steel City, which that turned out much better than I thought. Actually, I even tested that book out. I randomly picked 3 things from there and cobbled a outline together. It turned out fantastic. Then we did our NPC books, which they used to be actually decks, cards. This is a deck of card for Pathogen Classified right here. So a little shine to it. And there's a character that you have 25 characters in here, and they're a mix of good, neutral, and bad, and they have like a little background to them and like 3 plot seeds. So literally, if you're stuck for an idea, you can draw a card. Okay, this is going to center around this guy here, and this is the plot seed here. And people love that crap. I mean, we did that for Pathogen Classify. We did it for Wicked Packs. We did it in booklet format for Dark Times, and we're going to do it in booklet format for Pirates of the Shattered World. We didn't do one for Spy, but we will when we do Spy 2.0. So,
are a lot of these using the similar engine?
Almost all of them except for Pathogen. Pathogen Classify, when we did that, it was originally going to be for that engine, and it really felt like we were trying to shoehorn a fat foot into a small shoe. I was like, not the same, it was beefier as far as like the content, but it just didn't feel like it belonged there. It felt contrived. So I said, screw it. We're going to make a whole different system. So that's how my stupid brain works. So we wrote that system, and we've had a lot of positive feedback. I've got people who want me to write other games in that system as well, too. I was like, okay. And we do have plans.
finding the right rule set for a game is very important because all too often I've seen good ideas in the wrong set of rules.
Hmm.
Uh, and you're just like, oh man, if we'd have done something different with this would have been great.
Well,
Um,
I think a big flavor of the month right now is like, okay, what can we turn into fifth edition? It's like fifth edition doesn't cover everything, man. I mean, it's great for D&D, but
well, and the same thing happened with D&D 3 and 3.5. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
everybody tried to cram everything into D20, and you ended up with D20 Modern that was just clunky because you wrote a spy game. Yeah. What is modern humans really squishy with? Guns. What do all
Right.
spies carry? Guns. Like most spy games that are good tend to you find a way to not get in combat versus getting in combat.
Yeah. Our games are. We've been told by several people that we have a combination. It's like half crunchy, half narrative, and that's what we were shooting for. Because I like a little bit of both, but I don't like them wholly one or the other. I grew up. My first game was first edition Gamma World, right out of the box, and that was what I cut my teeth on. So in those games, you had to be much more narrative because your rules were bare bone. So you learn to do that back then. Now things are so much more sophisticated. Your game books are almost like coffee table art books. I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Oh,
glorious to look at.
my first game was AD&D First Ed, where we only got the player's handbook. So we didn't have monsters and we didn't have the combat system. So we could make characters and we just kind of made everything up as we went along.
Yeah, I mean,
And then months later, we got the other books.
oh yeah, I mean, you really had to use the theater of the mind, and you had to imagine, create, come up with things. And to a degree, I like that. I like giving people just the bare bones and letting them fill in the blanks because that's where your real gems are. That's where you really um, credit to your players. I mean, too many times I've seen people try to fit a group of people into a scenario that just doesn't feel natural. So even when we do our adventures, they're more of outlines and they're a little loose. But we found that people actually can adapt them and just put in whatever they want with our characters. So
Yeah, that's the advice I try to give most GMs is like, don't be so set on everything that you've created because your players are going to go off script. Let,
oh
let
yeah,
them go off.
it's like herding cats. This is gonna go everywhere, man. Good luck.
Yeah, and players don't enjoy being forced onto rails.
Yeah, GMs really have to be good improv people. If you can't improv, don't be a GM. You'll just torture yourself. Um, just be a player. That way you can create the chaos for the GM.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, well, I always tell new GMs is like, remember, players never break a game. GMs do. So, if a player does something crazy and breaks the game, it's your job as a GM to unbreak it.
Or, yeah, you gotta have to learn how to nudge them and reel them in a little bit in some areas, and just kind of, without feeling like they're being pushed to something. And to a degree, I think GMs really have to be almost be good psychologists. You've got to be able to read your crowd. You got to know that okay, this guy over here is a combat monster. This one over here is kind of the mad thinker. He's got to find some way to figure it out like that. This one over here is a buddy. He'll just follow along with whatever who's doing what. You really have to kind of pinpoint and just almost profile each of your players and know what buttons you can push with them, so you can actually just nudge them in those areas there.
And we were at the libraries at PAX Unplugged in Philly a couple of years ago, and I ended up running a pickup game of 16 players for D6 Star Wars.
Oh no, why would you do that to yourself? 16 players. Oh,
It's 16 players that barely knew it. Like, I think there were like a couple of people that were friends, but for the most part, none of them really knew each other. So, even better.
I have a.
And
Go ahead.
the everybody's, they're trying to plan some stuff out. And I noticed that there's this young lady at the end of the table who's kind of getting ignored, and she's kind of mumbling or something. I was like, I just grab a bag of chips and I slowly just grab one chip and I was like, "What did you say?" And I just slowly just like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And I'm just slowly eating one chip at a time, intently staring at her, and then slowly watch the rest of the table go, "Wait, what's going on?" And then they start looking
You directed the traffic towards her.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah. That many
and
people is tough. I mean, I
oh, it is.
I have a rule that no more than 6 people. I mean, preferably 4, 5, 6. It depends on the genre. But for the most part,
And,
4 and 5 is my limit.
and some of it depends on the players as well.
True.
Because doing pickup games is just crazy. And, I've done, the 10, 12 player games. The biggest, weirdest game I did was several years while I was living down in Texas in college. And our game grew from, it was another Star Wars game.
Hmm.
Um, you might think that I just absolutely love D6 Star Wars, but
Well, a lot of people do.
yeah. Personally, I think it's one of the best systems that's ever been built. Um, but the game grew from a GM and 6 players to when I left, when I joined the military in 2001, we had 7 GMs and it was 64 players, I think it was.
Yeah. See, I think also too, it depends on the game you're running because, like, let's face it, you can throw a stone and hit a D&D group somewhere. Okay, doesn't matter what. But if you're looking for something that's not D&D, and especially something that's really off, kind of market, and people dig that, they find out there's a GM doing that, they're going to flock to it because it's like, oh, you're the only person in town who runs this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. And everybody's, just wanted to get in on it and just it kept growing. And it was, thankfully we had a group of GMs that we all met on Friday. We
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, this is what happened the last week. Okay, this is where the story needs to go. And so, okay, you're in charge of this group with these ships, and if these ships come over here and dock, then this GM takes off. Like, had rules, and we made everything live action just so that there was no sidetracking,
Right.
and that's something I never want to do again. Is like, hey,
No.
no,
Lesson
I
learned.
yeah, uh, yeah. Like I said, it was like a 3 year long campaign. The last year of it was 50 players or more at any one time, and I think I aged 5 years GMing all that. And
It's
I
like
and I somehow was the lead GM, coordinating all the GMs and coordinating Master Story, and it's like
mhm.
never again.
It's a lot of work, yeah. So yeah, players who don't GM don't really understand how much work it is to run a game, and even I think actually it's even harder online if people use Roll20, which I was using for a while, but there's so much work on the GM's end. Good night. I was like, you know what? Bump that.
There is.
We're just doing this in theater of the mind. I'm going to trust what you're rolling there. If you got cheap at rolling a dice at an RPG game, you've got a sadder life than me. Okay, so, but
My
yeah.
my producer can attest for people that have cheated in D&D games in my
I
living
don't
room,
I don't
and so
get it.
we just bought the big dice and like, okay, everybody's got to roll these. And well, but I don't like those dice. Why? Because they don't magically roll 19 and 20 every day.
Well, thankfully, my core group we're the kind of the idiots who actually like seeing people screw up, including ourselves. It's like, oh, that's funny. Let's see what happens.
Well, and going back to advice for young GMs, I keep telling them like your dice don't matter. You're there telling the story, and you're telling the core. Your players are filling everything out, and the dice are there. The players' dice are there to ruin their plans.
Yeah, I mean, because there's things that can happen that as a friend of mine one time said, you can't script crap this good. It's because sometimes things happen. You make the wrong roll. It's like, oh my god. Like for example, he was running an Old West game, and one of the guys was playing. He was playing this real mean person, and he decided because his horse didn't do something, he failed some roll, so he blamed the horse. So he smacked the horse. Of course, no one in the game liked that. You know what I mean? Well, the funny thing was he rolled, I think, on the horse's reaction, which was negative. So the horse wound up biting at him. He literally rolled out in the open randomly. Critical hit to the guy's brain. Like, holy crap!
Nice.
Almost killed
And
him.
nice.
Oh, we just thought it was like perfect karma. And again, like I said, you can't script crap that good. That just was perfect.
Yeah. No, I love it when people. So I refuse to give people a target for what they're rolling at. Like, oh, you
Hmm.
need a 5, you need a 20, or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, and they're like, okay, I rolled this. Am I moving silently? Do you think you're moving silently? Wait, what does that mean? Oh,
Yeah.
you totally believe you are moving silently.
It's not like we have in life like some sort of like objective number we have to hit. Like, okay, I have to ramp up and do this. Like, you might be arrogant enough to think I can do this. So, yeah, and also too with the
We
players in a
call it
group
we
were
in
saying,
the real world we call it Dunning Kruger effect. Uh,
yeah, well, I don't let my players even mention what their ratings are and things. It's like you have to describe how good you think you are.
exactly. Like I intimidate. Okay, what do you say? What do you do? Like
Right.
describe it. Like
And if they're good enough,
and
I actually give them a bonus.
exactly. I don't know how many times I've been. I roll random dice behind the GM screen and you're like, oh man, you totally nailed it. Like this guy absolutely believes that you know what everything you're saying. Um, in chat. It's like the guy from the invisible guy from Mystery Men.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can only do it when you're not watching. I believe I'm invisible.
Well, that's that power of the mind. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I've
Well,
been running games for a long time. Long time.
yeah, it's the game we like. The business we're in is the power of the mind.
Yeah, and I think I told somebody one time one of the reasons I think that we like this so much and why it's so also alien to other people. So many people we've been programmed to wake up, turn on the TV and watch what's being pumped into our brain and our eyes. And there's always times that someone says, "Hey, don't open that door, you idiot! Don't do this." Well, in a game like this, you can be that person and decide, I shouldn't open this door. I should listen to that guy who said, you know what? Some people are axe murdered over there. Like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out of here. See you.
Exactly. And that's what I try to tell people with some of these games is like you play fantasy football, you're already playing RPGs. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
you
you're
know, and
laying out what you're going to do. It's yeah, it's and also too, I found, and I've actually seen this firsthand, where people who had certain social issues, awkwardness, even like some social scarring from events in their life and stuff like that, where you can actually see them slowly break out of their shell and feel like they can actually be more socially active. And once they get comfortable, they get a little more gregarious, and you actually see who they are at their core and who they want to be out, free. And
Well, and
it's,
some of
it's
the
really
things that we
cathartic.
try to do with the library is working with like at-risk youth. Typically young male kids that are starting to get in some juvenile trouble, and then you sit down and play some role-playing games with them. Sat down with a group that were already playing with another group, and
Hmm.
then was able to get enough D&D books for them that we got them a DM's guide, a player's handbook, and a monster manual and some
It's
dice.
awesome.
And sat down for a weekend and put them through a GM's boot camp, and then they started going playing with other kids.
Yeah.
The other thing we like to do is sit down with veterans, especially like veterans with PTSD,
Oh yeah.
especially guys that haven't sought any help yet.
Oh
And
yeah.
before I even ever started this, I was playing with some guys, and one guy came up to me. And we all knew he had some issues, and after 5 or 6 games, he came up to me and he's like, "I got to ask you a question." I was like, "What?" He goes, "I like who I am when I'm at the table." He goes, "Not that I'm my character or anything." He goes, "I'm just a different person when I'm sitting here." He goes, "How do I make that permanent?" And then I took him down, and we got him enrolled in some mental health programs with the
Good.
VA and stuff. So and he's doing much better. He's actually gaming with some other groups now, and
That's great.
um, he's
Yeah.
using it as a tool.
It can open up a lot of doors for people who just can't really communicate too well either. And it helps with the social skills. And going back to the thing as far as helping troubled youth, I actually attribute role playing games into keeping me from being out of jail because in my that time frame of my life, I was starting to get involved in some stupid stuff, and role playing games just took me off that path and put me on this other path instead. And I'm thankful of that. So when I see young kids who are kind of getting into it, I encourage it wholly.
So either you bought books and couldn't afford to do anything stupid, or you started to go do stupid things and somebody found out you played role-playing games. You're like, whoa, no, no, no. Just kidding.
Well, actually, I was kind of I was a weird person, weirder than normal, I guess you say, in high school, in the fact that no one really kind of messed with me. It's more like they kind of I had some bad raps, that I didn't deserve, and the things I should have gotten bad raps for, no one knew I was doing. So it's like, seriously. So no one ever made fun of me as far as doing RPGs and stuff like that. But I saw some guys I was gaming with who was being picked on about that, and I would step up, hey, let's back off, because I didn't appreciate that. I never appreciated bullies, never have, never will. And but I was able to see even back then how they were able to break out of their insecurity and that lack of confidence and actually get some confidence. And it took time, but they eventually got there. And I really attribute role-playing games to that, because you can put on this persona, it's almost like, this is your Excel version of you, and learn how to apply it just going from the table to outside and where you're talking to people. And once they have that aha moment, it's like, it's a game changer.
Yeah, we're really horrible at teaching kids how to. We're bad at teaching them social skills. We're bad at teaching them critical thinking and problem solving and teamwork. And
right.
What do you do in an RPG? You have to have social skills. You have to have critical thinking. Otherwise, everyone at the table will use their social skills against you.
Teamwork.
And teamwork. Otherwise, none of the other ones work.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. So you've got to put all those together into this fun out of the box adventure that allows somebody to do something that we're also bad at, escapism.
Well, I think the reason why so many people don't do it is because this activity has only been around for X amount of years. It's still in its infancy in comparison to, say, board games or card games, which have been around much longer. So it breaks people's paradigm, and they can't. It's alien to them. It's like, what do you mean you're acting like somebody? It just seems a little weird to them, and somewhere they forgot how to play Let's Pretend.
Yeah, and I tell people, like, that's all we're doing is we're advanced play pretend, and
with rules.
Yeah, exactly, with rules. Did you play cops and robbers growing up? Did you play
Cowboys and Indians? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Any of those million of things that we all did as kids, whether you're a boy, girl, or whatever, I guarantee you had imagination time.
There was a role playing scenario you were in, whether it's Barbie and G.I. Joe or who knows what.
Exactly, and we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it on a grander scale, and again with rules. That way, your brother can't come in and go, no, my G.I. Joe has the extra action kung fu grip that yours doesn't, and I win. You're like, wait, what?
Those kung fu grips, they always broke.
Yeah, all your G.I. Joes are.
Yeah, he's got like nubs. Just dated how old I was there.
Yeah, I may have some G.I. Joes in my garage.
Cool.
But
so
somebody last week when they were playing, they said they spent an hour trying to steal a car in the game, and the comment said it was also very funny watching people attempt to steal a car for an hour.
Yeah, sometimes the things you don't expect would take a long time to do, and things you think should take a long time don't. It's I've written scenarios. I think, man, they're gonna fly through this, and then it winds up being 2 or 3 sessions long. And players happened. Yeah, players happened. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, the old saying, plans. The best laid plans don't survive combat.
Very true in role-playing games, especially.
So you're almost ready to ship
Pirates.
Pirates of the Shattered World.
Well, close. I'd say hopefully a few months. Because it depends on how long Mitch takes to lay it out. I don't want to rush him, but he's a really good graphic designer. The previous books were, well, actually, except for Dark Times. Dark Times, I did have a guy do it, but this person I'm using now, Mitch, is a good friend of mine, and he was available, and I'm really super eager to see what he's shown me so far. It looks fantastic. So I think this book is going to rock as far as how it looks, how it plays. And to the point where we probably will be going back to previous editions and just making them look a little bit better. So,
and if you ever need a hand, like looking anything over, double checking things, feel free to contact us. I help people all the time to go, hey, this layout, something a little wonky, or have you thought about switching these things, or hey, this rule. Every now and then you have that vestigial rule.
Well, I usually like to have people at least test running out a game. So I mean, after we roll out Pirates of the Shattered World, we're going to be doing some supplements for Wicked Packs, which Chris has been helping out writing on that, and then we're going to release Spy 2.0, and then we're going to release Pathogen Unclassified Metamorphosis, which is kind of almost really Pathogen Unclassified 2.0. I might as well call it that, but I don't want to have everything be 2.0. And we got another supplement book actually close to being due out for Dark Times called Mercworks. That one's like this close to being ready. And of course, Pirates are going to have a few other supplement books coming out with it as well too. So we do have other games we have in mind, but we're not really announcing that yet until we get some of these other things nailed down. And
so, and like needing help on the behind the scenes stuff, just give me a holler. I would be happy to look things over. And
cool.
we got a small group of people that we can probably play test stuff with.
Yeah.
I know there's a couple people that would be eager to look at new, interesting, random things. And
well, I will have to warn you. Whenever I write things, I'm before it goes even to editing. I often joke that it's written in troll because it's really raw. I know it's not grammatic. I know it's not really a good read. It's just raw data mechanics put together with just a little bit of hint of flavoring. Just so I know that, okay, this engine runs. Now let's make the car look pretty. That's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. So I got to engineer it first, then I can make it look nice and sound all pretty and smell nice. So.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing is we know that there's a process to all this because I've looked at thousands upon thousands of games. I have run I don't know. I've probably run about 100 different game systems over the years, and I would say I could probably run about 60 well with picking up the books and reading through them again, and I can probably run 4 or 5, maybe 6 off the top of my head without rule books anymore.
Well, one of the things we were aiming for when we built our core mechanic we're really using right now, which I kind of, in a way, call it our spy mechanic, because Spy was our first game we rolled out. When we wrote that, we wrote it really so people can actually learn the game like quickly and jump into it. And if anything, when we would do demos publicly, I almost always seem to, for some reason, get a newbie to role-playing games who's never played a role-playing game ever in their life. And they're able to jump in our game.
You would love to run games for the library then.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean but they were able to learn it and get it fast. Matter of fact, we actually have links to our videos where we actually do our game basics, and it's usually 15 minutes or less, and it teaches you the core mechanics. And once you watch over that, you should be ready to play and run the game easily.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
I think you already covered this, but somebody asked, is there a new Wicked Packs book coming too? A monster one?
Okay, so there's actually going to be 2 books to that. it's going to explore other bloodlines and other character options, because in Wicked Packs, of course, we only have 4 bloodlines, which is angel-blooded, demon-blooded, half-blooded, and full-blooded. And this new one's going to explore the possibility of playing things such as vampires or werewolves and other creatures. It's also going to have other spells in there, other talents. There's even going to be a supplement book on St. Louis, and Chris has got this whole thing. He's detailed parts of the city out, certain plot seeds, adventures with this. So we're kind of waiting until we are done with and have Pirates of Shadow World out, and then we will release Wicked Packs as far as supplements. We don't have a title nailed down yet, but we got a lot of the core stuff already done. Just got to get some artwork finished up, laid it out, and then we can probably get it out. But hopefully before the end of the year, we'll have 2 books out for that, yes.
Thanks. Well, you just made somebody in the chat super happy.
Yay! Oh, also, too, if people don't know, we do a free publication called The Nightline, as spelled Knight. Those are free online on DriveThruRPG under the Polyhedral Knights, and each issue has actually stuff that you can use in our games. And there's even always in every issue we have one free rules agnostic fantasy scenario or something, okay, in there. Because let's face it, everyone does a fantasy game. But each issue might cover some bits for Wicked Packs or Dark Times or Spy or Pathogen Unclassified. And we got another one that's in the can too. We just got finished polishing that one up too. So
nice. Another question: is there more Dark Times books with powers and cyber/nanoware coming?
Not yet. We have talked about that. Although, as far as tech stuff, I think there's only so much more we can actually kind of pump into it. But yeah, we do have a desire to actually do something with more the powers, the nanotech, cyberware, mutations. We do also want to do a book on corporations and things of the state of the world, as far as who's in power and what. And of course, that's all heavily corporation related usually. So yeah, those are in the works, but I won't lie, that's kind of a little further down the pike. So.
Well, quick question for me. We're gonna try to clip little bits and pieces of these where people have done Kickstarters to try to put together like a Kickstarter help video for people, little bits of advice.
Yeah, there's certain things I've learned.
Yeah, is there anything specifically you would like to give as advice to someone that's thinking about or that is doing a Kickstarter?
Things I would recommend for anybody doing it. First and foremost, you've got to have a video. You have to have a video.
Yes.
Yes. Most of the things that do not have videos don't succeed. And when you do a video, you don't have to go hire a huge production team. Our first video, we used a lady we know. She's good looking, but she really didn't know the product too well. So it kind of showed a little bit, but she was good as far as getting it out there. And we hired a production team to do it, which was good. But I quickly realized, okay, I can get like a $200 camera, pay for like say Filmora or Wondershare, so I can edit my own stuff. And we wound up editing and shooting up our own videos, and they were a lot cheaper that way.
Yes.
And we were also able to do production as far as like tagging in how-to videos. People want to see some sample of what you have. It's almost like when you pick up a book and you flip through, and most people, what they do, they go back to the character sheet and look at that. You want to have a character sheet up there showing what they say what they can expect. Have some decent artwork on there, something that kind of captivates and puts them in the scene there. Also, to your budget, keep it realistic. Also, to most definitely, check out your shipping cost. Shipping will straight up murder you, because your book cost, is going to cost a certain amount, but your shipping, that can fluctuate a little bit, as we found out in the past few years. That stung us. Make sure you also know your printer, for those who want to imprint. Now, there are some people who print, in the States or out of the States. There's some who even have printing companies on both stateside and European side. So you can actually have, like, say, their European branch ship out to all your European customers, and your U.S. branch ship out to all your ones like that. But mostly, pad your timeline heavily. I've learned my lesson. I'm way past due on this because of COVID and other things. I have a daughter with some severe disabilities, so it gets a little wonky there. But yeah, just pad your time and be realistic about it. My recommendation is have as much of it done as you can before you launch it. So, and before you launch your Kickstarter, make sure people know that you're doing this. Try and get people to help spread the word, and don't become discouraged during the drive, because initially you'll see that money drop in there, and then the 2 weeks in between, it's going to be almost slow go or nothing happening. And then last week, the people who finally put their reminders in are going to put in there. So don't panic. But
yeah, I don't know how many people I've talked to about that. They're like, "Oh my God, we're like $200 short of our like $8,000 goal. Like, oh God, what do we do? We're not going to be successful." And then like the last 24 hours, like,
yeah.
wait, we were looking for 8,000 and we got 11,000. Like, how did that work? Like,
and some people will even drop off from it too. You'll have somebody on there, and then some people will drop off. They decide, nope, I don't want to be a part of this, and that happens too.
Well, and sadly, I feel horrible when this happens. Is the library's back something, and I'm busy doing Army stuff deployed at the moment, and I miss messages or something, and something doesn't get paid for, and I'm like, hey, I really apologize about that. This makes me look like a dirtbag.
No, anybody who's been in the creative field should know that that's what happens, and you don't take it personal. It's just how it is. It could be that the person lost their job and they need to pay bills, and I totally don't blame them on that. Matter of fact, actually, one guy wrote me about that. He wrote back. He says, "Listen, I'm so sorry." He's up back out. He says, "I lost my job." He had some things like that. I said, "That's okay. I understand." So I did anyways, and I didn't tell him this because I had his information. When we got it produced, I sent him the book anyways.
Oh, nice.
So he wrote me, "Man, you didn't have to do that." Like, no, man. I wanted to say thanks. At least you were, I understood what you're going through. We've all been there.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I always love about the game community is, no matter the bad rap that we've gotten over the years, is once you're in, it's a weird nerdy family that really does like each other, and especially in tabletop games, in RPGs really specifically, because once you get a game group going, you don't want to screw that up.
No, they're your brothers and sisters. They really are. And matter of fact, usually when I write to my friends, usually I'll end it, with like, your brother, in gaming. So, but yeah. So, what other questions you got?
Well, we're getting close to an hour here. Normally, towards the end of the interview, and I forgot to brief this on you at the beginning, we do a player character confessional.
Oh, okay.
And what we'll do is we'll clip the audio. So you tell us what the system was, what the character was, and my name was, Jimmy John, and I was a drow ranger in Polyhedral Knights. And then give a little pause, and then in character you tell us a confessional, and then what we'll do is we'll put that audio, we'll put it over a silhouette on a brick wall.
Okay.
And then we'll modulate the voice.
So there has to be a character that I've created before, you say, and
yes. So a character that you've played. So you've got a character, and you happen to have all the loot, and you turned around and looked, and everyone was fighting the red dragon, and you're like, hey, I just
Oh,
happened to have a scepter
I,
killing red dragons, but I've got all the loot, so
oh,
I just want to
I've
come
got one, and it pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, and they just it was it was kind of epic, and I even said I even talked to the GM beforehand. We planned this out, and he loved it, of course, because it was pretty much a scenario that was built up by me because I was really the bad guy and they had no idea. And I knew that there would be a demise. There was no me getting out of this thing, okay? Because I don't really like the idea of someone creating a villain just to destroy a group like that. And it's like, if I'm creating a villain, yeah, I want you guys to smoke me, okay? And just in a glorious way, So, so let me know when you want to do this, and I can, So
Well, if you're ready to do it now, we can do it
yeah,
now. Then
okay,
if we got more, if we got a little more time, then
we
we
can do that.
can
Yeah.
talk about it.
So the game was the old FOSSA Star Trek game. Remember that? Love that
Got
game
a copy of
still. Love that game still. And he was running, the game, and one of my previous characters had died. He was a security person. Imagine that. So I made a person who was what everyone believed was Vulcan. That character was actually Romulan. So my goal was to be in charge of communications, which was great because it allowed me to send certain things coded. Because I was also the head of the department too. So they've been having problems with Romulans off and on, and they couldn't figure out why, not knowing that I was leaking information out. And finally, there was one scenario where we were docked somewhere, and I'd been given orders that I had to help disable the ship and disable as many crewmen as possible because they were going to basically board and take over the ship. I literally got on the front of the bridge, set my phasers for wide beam stun, and because they were all surprised, I was nailing key player characters and dropped them unconscious and locked them away in the brig. And had Romulans coming over, and I did miss one of the characters, and I knew he was somewhere else. And of course, I knew this would backfire. I mean, sure enough, it did. He was able to actually get some people free, get to the armory. A whole fracas happened on the ship, and they did capture me, and it did not end well for that character. So it was a long, and I carried that secret on, playing this character for 6 months that way. And you should have seen the look of betrayal on their face. They just couldn't believe I pulled that off. They're like, what? No. They're trying to, and when they realized there were certain problems with certain communications at certain times, they realized, oh my gosh, you were doing that, weren't you? Like, yep. So yeah, it was kind of a proud and not so proud moment doing that. But as a GM, that's like pure candy for a GM. If you have a player who's willing to do that and knowing that, yeah, you're going to eat it and is okay with it. Foster absolutely loved it. So, needless to say, for about a year, they never trusted any character ever made again.
Nice. So what was the character's name?
Oh gosh, it's been 20 years ago or more. It was a female character. Oh man, T like T'Pol something. Wow, I can't remember her name. Man, any other time I can probably remember it. I can't remember it now, but
Well, if you remember, let us know.
yeah,
And then,
I can contact Foster. He would know. He probably even has his notes still. He was very detailed as far as notes.
can you tell us that same thing in character?
In character,
That way, yeah, because
almost
like
like I'm
say
bragging about. Okay.
you're bragging or you're being interrogated now, and
Okay. Well. Okay. Um. So you found out what I did. And it's a shame that none of you were intelligent enough to figure that out or have the proper defenses set up. So really, in a way, it's your fault. I just took advantage of something that you just weren't guarding. So once again, it proves our point that the Federation is nowhere near ready for the power it wields. And the true power and the true intelligence, the Romulan Empire, should be the ones in charge, and you should be subjugated to us.
I like it.
Yeah, I played her pretty haughty, most of the time. So I mean, they just figured, okay, that's just but not in an emotional way. It was more of a cold haughtiness before.
Yeah.
But once they found out, oh yeah, I was able to just let her just come all out and just be as condescending as sniping as possible. I basically pushed their buttons where I was expecting someone was going to smoke me right there and then.
My favorite hidden character was we played. I think we're pushing. We're like starting our fourth year in Star Wars again, and so Charger Fan, the little bat-looking creature that pulls the blue milk off the counter in New Hope, that's a Charger Fan. So we had one of those in our group, and he was a mechanic. And in the old D6 Star Wars, you've got to have a quote. So I've got a really bad feeling about this. Every time you say it, the GM can give you some bonus points. So this Charger Fan was a mechanic, and his little saying was, "I got a hammer," and he'd hold up his hammer. So it's like, "Hey, can you help out?" "Well, I got a hammer," and you go to work on something. So
that's catchphrase.
I'm playing this Combat Gumby Tagorian, which is basically a cat version of Wookiees, and it's me and this little Charger Fan, and we got like 7 guys coming at us. I'm like, my character, she can take like 6 of them. What can you do? He goes, "I got a hammer." I was like, "Man, if we survive this, I'm gonna beat you with that hammer." And then he just goes, click, and he flicks the head of the hammer back, and it's a lightsaber.
Okay.
And he proceeds to just go Jedi on this group. I'm like, what? And all the other players sitting around the table going, "Hey, time out. Wait, what? What? Oh my God." And it was great because our GM for years, he just pass notes all the time. So seeing the Charger Fan pass notes, never rung a bell with it. Like never,
just hammer talk, right?
Yeah. And it turns out, like every time he's like, "I got a hammer," he was telling the GM like, "Hey, I'm going to do this with this with this with force." And like,
secret Jedi.
oh my God, yeah. Well, we're playing during the original movies when Jedi
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
hidden.
you gotta keep it
So
hidden.
he's really, yeah, and we're just like, what? Yeah, years, literally years, that none of us knew this, and he just kept it until he couldn't keep it hidden, and I'm just like
Nice.
staring at him, going, but it, it
Mind blown.
5 people sitting at a table just could not speak, and the GM's like, "Oh, I've been waiting for this moment for years."
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was just like I could not even fathom keeping a secret like that for so long.
That's a confession of mine. I mean, because honestly, as GM, there's times that I've had something I really want them to see what it's all about, but you can't unveil it yet. It's like, shit, I gotta wait for this to get to that point where they can like, oh no, see it, And so yeah, I've had that before.
Yeah, I love telling the story about the hidden Jedi so that people like really want to play those long games. And because I know people that with the library, I play tons of one shots now, and they're fun, but they're definitely not as fun as what a long running game can be.
Oh yeah, because I mean,
you get a freaking hidden Jedi that you don't know about for years.
Well, there's a lot of backstory and character interactions with just other characters or players and even NPCs. Yeah. So it really varies.
Yeah. So I mean, I ran a D&D 3.5 game for years when I was in the when I was active military, and we played so long. People were starting up guilds and stuff. They owned half the town that they were based out of.
Yeah.
Your epic level stuff. But they were, it'd be funny because they're like, okay, I've got this thing planned. Okay, well, I gotta go coordinate all this stuff with my different guilds, and I'm sending these people on a missions. And they're like, did we just take 2 hours on all you guys' guild sim building this town? We didn't even get the gameplay.
Well, in Pathogenic Classified, we actually have rules for the community. Matter of fact, the community gets its own character sheet and has its own stats, and it's almost like its own adventure generator sometimes. Although when we do Pathogenic Classified Metamorphosis, you're going to see the thing just change a lot. Not so much the core of it, but it's going to expand a lot and be a lot better detailed. So we're really looking forward to that because that game, I'm very fond of it. It's a good pickup game, and it's not your typical survival horror game because it's not just like mindless munchers. Actually, it's funny. Have you seen the movie Army of the Dead?
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, I was watching. Oh my gosh, it's kind of like our thing because you have the regular ones, and you have these ones that just seem a little more hyper intelligent. Well, in our game, that's what we have what they call the hive, and they have a hive mentality. Those are the ones that actually are part of the original alien threat that was put on Earth to wipe out humanity. The other ones for the mindless munchers are ones that got captured by the corporations, perverted, and just turned into these mindless munchers. So, and then there's even a smaller branch of people who didn't turn, but it activated some sort of psychic abilities in their brain, but also caused some problems too. So there's like a lot of different levels of things in there. So.
Well, when I get back, I definitely want to play the Pathogen. That one sounds
Well, let
fun
me
because
know if you want to play something. I can always set up a game online. We can do it. You know what I mean? Just get you and a couple people, not 16 people. About four. We can be good. So.
Yeah. The only thing I'll ever do 16 in is D6 Star Wars. Just it's a universe everybody knows, and it's a rule set that I've boiled down to the most minimal of rules for people to play with.
Well, they have D6 Fantasy.
Yeah, the D6 is an open system now.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Which I was really happy that they did that, and
it was smart of them to do that.
I like the open systems because you get a lot of people that they don't get how to make the rules. They've got great ideas for stories and a world, and if they can take something like D6 or Savage Worlds or even 5e or D20 and take their idea and port it into those rules, it gives us access to something that never would have seen the light of day.
So I will actually tell you something that I haven't told anybody publicly. There's actually a game that it's kind of right now. It's I call it my warm up game. So before I start working on writing, I work a little bit on this game, just so I can kind of get warmed up to writing, and then I'm able to jump off and dive it. It actually has some really radically different mechanics to it, even radically different mechanics to gaming. It doesn't use dice. It's not diceless. You actually use dominoes. Yeah. And it's set in where you're basically playing modern day criminals, and you are either someone trying to get further into your organization or get out of it. And the mechanics we have for the dominoes, I've been testing out with my primary group, and they love it. It's really different. And I've learned a lot about dominoes. I never really messed with them before, but it's using the 628 group. I forget. It's a smaller box ones, okay? Because there's ones that have higher numbers. This goes 1 through 6, yeah. But we'll probably announce that a little later on. So you're actually the first people publicly for us to actually mention that we're actually working on something about that, and it's pretty dope. It's pretty cool, yeah.
Well, that we always like to see new mechanics, and we like to see new mechanics that are done with a purpose. Because I've seen people try new things for the sake of new things,
Hmm.
um, but then you get, I mean, people try new things. Have you played Dread?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
I mean, I think because what's one of the hardest genres to GM? Horror,
Yeah,
because
and you really have to have a small group for that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
you have to have a great storyteller. You have to have somebody that can
good
draw them in. You
players.
have to create the dread and that sense of fear, and that's really hard to do because your character's not real. Well,
Hmm.
Dread did a great job with that. You got to pull the Jenga bits, and oh,
Yeah, it ratchets the tension. It really
oh,
does.
it does. So
Yeah.
it's such a great job of just taking something that's mundane, for the most part role playing
Hmm.
for horrors, and just just tilted the scale to force people to be in that constant state.
Yeah,
So
we
I like
tried.
the idea of using dominoes as it's a new mechanic. They're not hard to get your hands on,
No.
and it's a way to um,
Well, it's also kind of
get
thematic too,
yeah.
because I grew up in Southwest Miami, and not exactly the nicer part of town, but you saw a lot of pretty much gangbangers who love to play dominoes. I mean, it's kind of like street poker. That's what it is.
Yeah,
And
no, military. We love dominoes.
mhm.
I visited prisons over the years. They love dominoes. Dominoes is it's in and amongst a lot of people that you know have stressful lives, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, yeah. But we also try and put a lot of different thematic things in our games. Like, say, for example, Wicked Packs. We actually have the tarot mechanic in there as well too. So we thought it was very thematic, but also it gave a certain nice flavor to the mechanics of the game too, and a bit of a kind of a wild card.
Seen tarot used a couple times, and when used thematically right, it's good. Oh man, there was a game I saw that tried to use it. It's just bad. I wish I
Oh.
could remember the name of it. Uh,
The ones I remember that you used before was Psychosis and Witchcraft. I know that.
yeah,
Witchcraft was actually an optional rule they had online. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
those are the only two that I
So
know of.
decks of cards have been used a few times. The old Deadlands.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved how it's one of my second favorite game system behind D6 because it uses a deck of cards very intelligently.
Hmm.
Then there was cartomancy. So a guy out of France, his son was autistic and wanted to play RPGs. So
Hmm.
he figured out, and his son liked playing cards. So he figured out how to basically play an RPG with a deck of cards,
Oh yeah.
and it's actually a great way to do it. You can make characters with it and all kinds
Hmm.
of fun stuff.
Oh yeah, it's great. Cool.
I got to dig up those rules, but that one's tougher to play online because
Yeah,
it's
it is a little
definitely
tough
one
for that.
that's in person. But no, in the nature of his son, that's something that talk to him. His son is very tactile, and that's part of the reason I like playing cards. But he also wanted to play role playing games like Dad did. So, um, oh man, now I really am excited for events to really start rolling again through the library, and can't wait to get home and start going to these events as well.
Now, tell me more about your library program you have guys going there.
So we collect as many RPG books as possible.
Hmm.
And then we take them around to events. So like Emerald City Comic Con, Penny Arcade Expo, PAX
Hmm.
Unplugged, um, and we travel around. So the further away from it is where we live, the smaller the library gets.
Oh, you guys
Just
on the
because,
West Coast, right?
correct. Currently, we
Okay.
are out of the Seattle area,
Yeah.
um, but we do hit shows on the East Coast, um, and
Well, give me your
we're
address. I'll send you guys some stuff.
will do. Carissa's got all your contact info.
Cool.
She's probably typing it in right now.
Okay. Well, then message me on that, okay? And what I'll do is like probably Monday, I'll place my order with my printer and just have it drop shipped to you guys.
Oh,
So
awesome. Yeah, so what we do is, we talk to people about the history of role-playing games, and we tell people how they can use games to work with friends or at-risk teams or people uh, with any issues, kind of the same way that we do behind the scenes. And then we also get a lot of people their first time ever playing a game, which is really fun because we
yeah.
get some people that have just they're like, well, I've always wanted to play. And then our other favorite thing we do at shows is we play RPG sommelier.
Hmm.
So yeah, sommelier is what kind of wine are you looking for? You want it woody, whatever. So we get somebody like, well, I play D&D, but I don't really like it anymore. Or, I've always wanted to play, but I never wanted to play fantasy stuff. Is there anything else? He's like, well, what's your favorite book? Or what's your favorite movie? We'll start with
Hmm.
something like that. And then we'll start,
Yeah.
getting them like, oh, you like James Bond. Well, there's an old James Bond one, but, there's the old James Bond stuff, and then here's some new spy games.
Hmm.
Or, hey, you loved RoboCop. Great. You know what? We can find you, here's a bunch of different things. People like, I was a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. Great, here's the Buffy RPG. Here, wait, that was thing. Oh, and the Angel add-on too. Here, what? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I grew up watching Dallas. Yeah, well, there's a Dallas RPG game, and we have two
What?
copies of it.
Oh
Yes,
man.
yes, there's a
Okay.
Dallas RPG game, and like I said, we have two copies.
Okay. So you want to hear something funny? So the first RPG I technically ever wrote, never published, was something I wrote almost as a joke to this was my ex now. Okay. She was teasing how every RPG has some sort of combat in there and whatever. It's all centered around violence and like that. So I decided to write Bed Sheets and Briefcases, the soap opera RPG. Ran that for
Nice.
her and our gaming group. These guys, they went totally ape shit nuts for it because they just thought it was funny. She, of course, was sitting there rolling her eyes because I just had to prove her wrong about that. Oh, it was hilarious. I
That
keep
was that
threatening
was
one day I'm gonna pull that back out and publish it for free.
I, we'd totally rock a copy of that. We've got some weird stuff in the library. Like you had mentioned Pirates of the Dark Water. Did you know there was a Pirates of the Dark Water RPG?
That wouldn't surprise me though.
So here's the crazy thing. It was printed and then not like a handful of copies made it out, and then the
Cease and
publishing
desist.
basically. So
Yeah,
there's only a handful of copies that are around, and I acquired. Usually when they pop up somewhere, they're like
yeah.
$2,000-3,000, and one
I've
popped
heard
up
that
on
they're
eBay.
I've heard they're really weird about tightness on control on that IP. That people have been wanting to do things with it, but they won't let them do anything with it. I don't know why.
Yeah, who is the person that wrote it and has all the rights to it? And yeah, apparently he agreed to an RPG. Um,
Yeah,
then last minute, everything was canceled. So the handful of copies that are out there are like advanced copies basically, and they
yeah.
usually pop up a couple grand. And one of the people that follows the library said, "Hey, look what I just found," and he sent me a link to a copy of it that was on eBay, but it wasn't listed under games, and it was misspelled.
Ah, gotcha.
And I it was like $179, and it was still sealed. Like
Wow.
honestly, I would like to find somebody that has an open copy that wants a sealed copy and work a trade with them, because I'd
Really?
rather not pop it open because knowing
Yeah,
that there's only a handful out there.
yeah,
But yeah, I was like, I can't pass up $179 for this.
yeah. Especially for something rare like that, because
Yeah,
that can be
mm,
worth something later.
yeah. Every time I think about it, like I really want to open it. I should do a stream and get everybody watching as I open it.
You would get people watching that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I need to get running because it is 10:30 at night here
Yeah,
in
I'm gonna have to
Ukraine.
go check on my little girl. She's got severe disability, so it means I have to change her diaper.
Yep.
So I gotta take care of her.
Yep.
So,
You
but
take
yeah, it's
care of
been
your
great.
family.
So, yeah, it's been great talking to you guys. But like I said, if you're interested in playing something, let me know whenever you want to, you and your wife, and we can do something online if you want to, and you can invite like a couple other people. Whichever one of our games that seems to kind of tickle your fancy, let me know. So I'm always happy to do that, and definitely give me your address so I can actually ship you guys something. Okay, to add to your
Absolutely.
library.
Yeah, she'll get you to that, and
Cool.
if you hang on the line for just a moment,
Sure.
we'll chat real quick after we sign out. So, thank
Sounds good.
you everybody in Twitch land and for tuning in, and we'll hopefully get some more reliable content going again here soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Are we clear yet, producer?